assessment. So Chloe, if you could start recording if you haven't done already.
Yeah, I'm recording.
Brilliant, thank you. So I expect most of you have already had a look at what it is you've got to do for your assessment and started thinking about how you're going to do that and what you need to know and to have learned and to have read to be able to answer the questions. There are two elements to the assessment. You've got to do both an email and a report. It's not one or the other. You have choices with regard to what you do your email about, what you do your report about, but you have to do both an email and a report. You can't, well, you could, but I would not advise you trying to write both of them in one evening, especially if it's the day before it's got to be submitted. Give yourself plenty of time. You've got until the 8th of July. So you've got a fair time, but don't leave it to the last minute before you start. Don't leave it to start until the 7th of July. Give yourself plenty of time to plan what it is you're going to do. Reread some of your stuff. Write down what you want to do. Make sure you read that again. Rewrite it, read it, adjust it before you submit it. Give yourself time to look through what you've done and reread it and redo it. If you don't understand something, please do ask. I'll be honest, most of the questions we get from now on in will be about how you submit and other technical issues like that. But do ask if you don't understand, you don't know what you're doing, you'll get something doesn't work right for you. Please do ask. You can use the forum or you can email the academy or Chloe, and Chloe will make sure it all gets the right person to get you an answer as soon as he possibly can. Okay, we're here to help. We won't write it for you, but we can help and take some of the stress away if things don't work to plan. There is no stupid questions. So as a general overview, sorry, I beg your pardon. Oh. The idea is that when you're answering the questions, you explain what you're talking about and you can prove you understand the course and you're applying the knowledge that you've learnt on it. So all those things, when it says you will have learnt these learning outcomes, that's what you're trying to show that you've learnt. Make sure you use your evidence. Say why you know things, where you've got it from, and evaluate that information. But don't just regurgitate stuff. Add your own reflection, your own thoughts, why you believe that, what you think is right. We want that personal input. That reflection gets you those extra marks. That's what moves you from the pass to the merit to the distinction. Use it as an evaluation of what it is you're doing. Evaluate and discuss. Don't just describe. You've got to make it wider than just description. Got to use an academic writing style. So this is, although you're writing an email and report, it is an academic piece of work. So make sure you use your quotes, your referencing. Make sure it's clear about how you've written it and it's written in the right way so that the markers can see exactly what it is you've got from where. Have a look at the Intermediate Route Assessment Handbook for Health. It's in the resource library. Have a read through, have a look at that. If you're stuck, you don't understand what it says, Chloe's an expert. So ask her what this means about writing it down. That sort of technical thing we can help with. as I said, email us at the Academy or post questions if you need guidance. You won't find any worked examples of assessments, but there is a document available to help you write the report. Okay, it's uploaded in the announcements. Have a look at it. Have a look at what it is that's being expected. But you won't find a worked example of this sort of assessment. We want it to be your work and we want it to be original from you. Always, always read the question and the brief. Okay. Sometimes we have different ways of learning. Okay. Make sure you read that brief properly and you understand what it says. Personally, I find that if I write something out, I understand it better than if I've just read it. My brain sometimes changes what I'm reading to what I expect to be reading or I think I'm reading. It might I might add words or take words out or change some of the words within it. It's my dyslexia. It's right pain in the neck, but never mind. But that's so I personally would rewrite out a question. So I'm sure I've written out and I've actually read correctly the question that's being asked. Make sure you know what it is you're being asked to do. Even if you don't write it out, it's useful to have it printed out and by the side of you. That way you can highlight keywords or underline things just to make sure that you're answering the question that's being asked and you're putting into it what it is that's needed. It's much easier. Personally, you may find it different. I find it much easier to do that on a piece of paper than I do underlining and highlighting on a text on my screen. It does also mean you've got it there by the side of you when you're actually trying to write something. You can tick it off. Yes, done that, done that. When we're asked to compare and contrast, what we're being asked to do, basically, is look for those similarities, things that are the same, and the differences, things that are different. When you're comparing, you're looking at things that are the same, and contrasting is you're looking at what's different about it, what makes it individual or different to the other version. Really have a think about this. This is where your interpretation of the question comes into its own, really. If you're looking at the comparatives, you could look at any areas of the things that you're comparing. It might not be something that's absolutely talked about all the time. You might pick something different for the one that you're describing. And if it is something different, say why you've picked it and what it is that makes it the same or makes it different. Even if they've used the different words, is it really the same? So really think about what it is that you're comparing and contrasting. When we're asked to describe something, we should create a vivid picture of something that tells people what it is. So, for example, if I was to describe my breakfast, I could say I had fruit in yogurt. That tells you what I've had. That's described it. Or I could say I had a large bowl of Greek yogurt with a dollop of tart stewed rhubarb and plums which sank into the middle, making it a gorgeous red colour. Which gives you a picture? I'd certainly rather eat the latter than the first one. So think about when you're describing something, think about does what you've said create a picture? Does it really tell somebody what it is? Does that description go as far as it should do? I know we're limited with a word count, so you can't wax totally lyrical, but use your words to give a picture if you're asked to describe something. If I was then asked to explain my breakfast choice, I would say I chose to have yogurt because it was in the fridge for a while and would soon be past its sell-by date. So I don't really like yogurt on its own, but I'm not too keen on sweet things in the morning. So I added some stewed rhubarb and plums because they add that kick and a bit of different taste to my yogurt. And I'd had, the previous day, I'd had the fruit given to me, so that was a bit overripe now. So I could stew it down and make it last that bit longer. I also forgot to put it in the freezer, so I had to use it this morning to add to my yogurt. And I felt good that I'd used things that might otherwise have gone to waste. I felt that I'd really pushed my fridge to its limit this morning by using the stuff that I'd got in there. So that explains to you why I had what I had for my breakfast. So you can describe it in a way that gives a proper picture and explain it by giving some depth and some background and some rationale and putting some emotion into it. So the two go together, but the more story and picture you can make, the better you can describe and explain something. So the assessment requirement, an email and a report, as I've said. You need to do both. The email is limited to 500 words, so that's not a lot. You've got to be quite concise within that. And the report is 2,000 words. Again, once you get into a flow of something, 2,000 words can disappear quite quickly. So do think about what it is. And this is why you need to plan it, write it, reread it. Okay? Because you'll either have not done enough words or you've done too many. I can almost guarantee it. So you need to be reading through and seeing what words in there actually add value, what answer the question that what add to the marking criteria, which we're going to look at in a bit. You've got to use academic referencing, which use what the HFMA have put out there. They've got a great guide, but you've got to use it all the way through your document, both sets. And you've got to submit as PDFs. Okay. There's some tables on the assessment front cover sheet, which you need to make sure are there, and all the information that it's asking for, you fill in. Okay. Refer to the handbook. All the information you need is in there, but as I've said, don't get stuck on something. If it doesn't work or you don't understand, get in touch and we can help you through that. Okay, so there's under the module assessment, there's a document that explains how to submit your assessment, but sometimes it is easier, I know, to talk to people. And sometimes technology is not on our side. Another huge reason for not leaving things to the last minute. So the learning outcomes we talked about, I mentioned learning outcomes before. This is the things that you're trying to prove that you know. Okay. So describing the ways that healthcare in the UK is structured. We've talked about that a lot. It's easy to get into stuff about how things are structured and how we work out. That compare and contrasting health systems. What's similar, what's different? How does it work together? Capital and revenue. Again, there's similarities and differences within capital and revenue, and they work in different ways. You've done all this in your course so far. You've been through all these things. You've added to your knowledge with your own reading. And I hope you've been talking to people as well and finding out their views about things. So those learning outcomes, you should know. You should have gone through all that by now. And you're just left with writing these assessments. So the email is looking at compare and contrast health systems that operate in each of the home nations, or it's looking at the NHS revenue and capital monies. And it's from your manager has asked you to do this. And they've asked you to explain a briefing about one of the two topics above. Okay. So it's a briefing, not long, just 500 words, not a huge amount of stuff. And it's 25 marks. And it's either looking at 3 major elements of health and social care structures of England with one of the other home nations. So no, look at the words in that. So you've got 3 major elements. And you're comparing England with one of the other home nations. Okay. And you want your judgment about which system is most responsive. You've got to make a judgment, and you've got to explain your reasons for it. So you can look at that one, or you can look at 3 budgetary constraints that affect capital planning in your workplace. Okay, providing your manager with that assessment of how these constraints might impact on patients' needs. Okay, so that's relating the capital planning right back to the patient. And you can choose either one of those, but you've still only got 500 words. Okay. You've got to, whenever you're writing something, you've always got to have your start, your middle, and your end. So you need a purpose of the email. Don't do that more than for 50 words, otherwise you're just wasting your words, because the assessor knows what the purpose of the email is. You've just got to make sure it's stated there nice and clearly. The main sections is the bulk of what you're doing. And it should do, for topic 1, it should be doing that compare and contrast of the 3 major elements. So you need to get that into the body of it. And then at the end, you've got your conclusion. Okay. And for the first one, you're looking there at how that relates to the patients. Which one do you think is the best? You're drawing your conclusion. You haven't got many words, so you need to be clear and succinct, but you still need to make sure you're giving that description and that story. But you don't have many words to do it in. So think about how you phrase that, how you how you make sure you're showing that you understand in those fewer words. And if you're doing the capital one, it's the same setup. Short, purpose, this is what I'm writing to you about, as you asked me. Your main body is that description. What's going on? How's it work? And your conclusion at the end is how it impacts the patients. Okay. Your second part is your work-related report. And that's trying to get you to show that you understand how the healthcare is structured and funded. It's got strengths and weaknesses in the funding flows, and how the finance works within the NHS, and identify the areas which might be improved. So how it's structured, good and bad of funding flows, and what could we do to improve it? That's what you're trying to prove. There's 75 marks you get for this one as a maximum. So your manager, the Deputy Chief Finance Officer, has got to present a report to their senior management team. So it's all internal. And it's 3 topics that are considerable importance to the hospital. And they've asked you to prepare a draft report that they will then finalise. So yours is the draft. Okay. They need you to explain. They need to explain to the team 3 major impacts that current financial challenges are having on healthcare services in general and patient care in particular. Describe the payment mechanism currently used in the NHS, including any pros and cons. And in particular, they want your comments about how the NHS payment scheme should deliver against what you see as the objectives of a payment mechanism. Okay. So within that, you've got quite a few things that you need to think about. If you just take that last one, the payment, how your comments about how the payment scheme should deliver against what you see. So this is taking the information you've got and putting your thoughts against it. What do you believe? There is no wrong answer here for these. When it's your opinion, it's your opinion. But what you do have to do is back it up and show why you believe that. Why you think this is right and that's wrong, or this one's better than that one. So whenever you're putting an opinion, make sure you've explained why you have that opinion and what it is that you believe is the right thing. Why? Don't just do the what. Again, you should start off with your purpose. In your intro, tell the assessor why they need to read the report, the purpose of it. Again, keep it short, keep it snappy. You'll need more than in the email, but try not to do more than 100. And then you'll need to split your body of the work into 3 sections. You know that just talked about what are the 3 sections to it. Make sure it's clear what you're talking about and what your why you believe what you do. So you need to have that description within there about what it is that you're being asked to talk about. But for that, the payment mechanisms, the pros and cons. Pros and cons, there will be specific ones, but you'll have picked them. Why is it a con? Why is it a pro? You can't just say something is good without saying why. Again, not brilliant, not absolutely easy when you've got a word limit, but 1,700 words is quite a lot. So you should be able to get through that by picking them up. Be succinct again, but don't skip on the why. At the end, you need to summarize what it is you've said. You shouldn't have any new stuff in the summary at the bottom. It should be all consolidating and re-emphasizing the specific bits from the stuff above, and limit that to 200. You need to put most of it in the 1,700 above. Okay, so you start off with this is what I want to talk about it, and then summarize it. Do, as I keep saying, do think about the question, plan what you're going to put down. Even if you make yourself some notes about things that you definitely want to include in it, write them down so that you can tick them off, so you know that they're in there. And make sure it addresses what you're being asked to do. Although what you're asking, it is a report, and it's this is a vocational qualification, so you're doing it within work, it's relating to work. You do need to write it academically. Okay. But it should be the standard that would be expected at work. Make sure you're using those references and you keep looking back at that question to ensure that you're ticking it off, you're working it through, you're answering the question that's being asked, not what you think is being asked. It's quite easy sometimes to get into a role with when you're writing something, and you could write some absolutely brilliant stuff, but if it doesn't answer the question, it won't get you any marks. So reread it, have a think about it, review it. Maybe even get somebody at your work to say, this is the question, this is what I've written. Does it answer? Use whatever facilities you've got to get the most out of this. We're going to have a look at the grading criteria, just to pull out a few bits and pieces so you can see the differences between a fail, a pass, a merit, and a distinction. Do all your referencing. And make sure you follow that word count advice and do your intro, main body, and conclusion. Just to hammer that one home. Your introduction should be used to introduce the argument and its scope. Keep it short and sweet. And your conclusion rounds off that assessment. A summary. Again, don't make it too long and don't introduce anything new. Re-emphasize, highlight, anything like that, but nothing new. Okay. I'm hoping you're all fully expecting all this to be typed and you're not expecting to handwrite it. So all the assignments should be typed, double spaced, and have generous margins. Use 12-point text, so it's easily legible. So Calibra, Arial, the stuff we use most of the time. Use your candidate number at the top of the first page and every page. Don't use your name. Don't put your name on the document. You put that on the forms that you fill in at the front. You've got your number, your candidate number is what you're using. You should have the full title of the course and the date that you started studying. So this is March 26 and the L4C1 intermediate route. Make it clear what you're answering. When you've PDF'd it, it should all be on there. Don't miss bits off when you PDF. If there's multiple parts, make sure that it's clear which bit you're answering when. That's not too much of a problem in this because you're answering 2 questions and they're very separate. Okay. Page numbers on the bottom right-hand side. Make sure any formatting that you do is consistent throughout. Don't start off doing Arial and finish off Calibri, or change your paragraph formatting halfway through. Make sure you keep it consistent. It just looks better. It's easier to read. You want the assessor to want to read it. If it's only got 1 sentence, it's not a paragraph. Okay. Don't do overlong paragraphs because eyes get tired. Make sure they're structured correctly. You can use headings and subheadings, especially in the report, but don't use footnotes. You've got your referencing, make do with that. So the word count, you've got a variation of plus or minus 10%. And includes all content that you wish to be marked, including the tables and the appendices. The contents page, bibliography and reference list are not included in the word count. And if you're producing a board report in response, you don't include the executive summary, but you haven't got an executive summary, so that's not relevant. Assignments that exceed 10% tolerance may be penalised. Okay, so try not to go more than 10% over. And if you're going more than 10% under, you're not writing enough. The word count for your assessment submission should be on the document before it's submitted, what you think you've written. Okay. So your bibliography and reference list don't count. If you're putting tables in, they do. And you can put, oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So illustrations, if you're going to put a table or an illustration or something in of that nature, make sure it's clear and it's a good quality one. It's not all hazy and fuzzy because it's been copied over so many times. Make sure it looks good and it looks clear. And make sure you refer to it in your text. Don't put it in if it doesn't help describe or illustrate what it is you're talking about. And if you do put it in, make sure you've referred to it. Make sure they're numbered so you can refer to it easily. And if it's not your original work, it's got to be cited. Don't get drawn into lengthy discussions about figures. The idea of these assessments isn't about the numbers. It's about the processes, the different ways of working and how that impacts on patients. It's not about specific numbers. Don't get drawn down into that rabbit hole. You can add your illustrations, your tables, whatever, into the main text, or you can put them in an appendices and refer to it. Either way is fine. Just make sure that it's all labelled up. And the appendices are after the reference list, but the appendix does count towards your word count. The references don't. They've got to be numbered, headed, and the source cited. Okay. If you're writing a date, use the number, the month, and the year, with the month in words. Okay, 11 October 1996, not October 11th. If it's up to numbers 10, should be written as a word. For larger number, use the figures. And if you're talking about percentages in the text, write percent. Quotations and reference listing, look at that, the HFMA support document for this. Use the Harvard referencing system. I'm not going to go through that. Read the document. If you've got problems, ask questions and we'll help. There's different guidance on how to present short and long quotations, how your text should look, and what you need to include in that reference. Please do refer to it and make sure you're putting your references in correctly. If it's all your own work, then you won't need to reference anything. But please do reference when you've taken things from other places. Make sure it's acknowledged. Make sure you tell us what you've done. And if you're quoting it correctly. So the assessment criteria. If you get over 70% of the marks, then you're into a distinction. Merit is 60-69, pass 50-59, and if you get below 50, then you've been unsuccessful. Though, I mean, if you read through this, please do read through this. It doesn't tell you full detail about if you put this, you'll get a distinction. If you put that, you'll get a merit. But it does talk about what your answers should show. So if we're talking about how you show your knowledge, the 25% of the points available for each area, each of the two assessments, is you get 25% for your knowledge and 30% for your application of skills. And when we're talking about knowledge, if you're looking for a merit, you're looking for a good exploration of the subject matter. So not being only picking one bit. You've got to explore it fully. And how that subject matter can be positively or negatively affected. So what makes it good? What makes it bad? What if something changed? What might change? And the more you can talk about that change, the more you're headed towards the distinction. But for what I would certainly concentrate on the first part is getting that sort of ideas down. And then if you've got word count left, you can expand. But do think about how something, it might be good in one context, but bad in another. Or good for one set of patients and bad for another. Think about what it is that you're trying to describe can be affected. And different perspectives on things. So when you're asked for your thoughts, your comments, your conclusion about something, being able to say what other people might think, or if you're looking at it from this point of view, gives a different perspective. When we're talking about our skills, application of skills, descriptions and explanations, we've talked about how to describe and how to explain and the differences between those. They've got to be clear. And those explanations should anything that you put down as an explanation should add to the clarity of the description, should add to the understanding about how it works and why it doesn't, and the issues. It's not an explanation if it doesn't add something. So do have a read through those. There's some more coming up. As you notice, that only added up to 50. No, it didn't. It added up to more. So your application of skills, identifying issues and providing recommendations. So they're all both sets of things are asking for your thoughts and your comments. Again, looking at the merit one. Making sure you're identifying things from different angles. So most issues are identified in a variety of methods or ways used to respond to them. So think about not just one response to something, but how it can be looked at differently, or how it affects one thing and maybe works a little differently for another because of the nature of that. And make sure if you're asked for a recommendation, ask for your thoughts, you give them with the whys. Yeah. So link it to the issues, to the responses, to whatever it is that you're being asked to link it to. And then there's 15% at the end for the presentation, the clarity of the answers. So this is again, it's looking at how you've structured it, the fact that it flows, that it makes sense, you're not contradicting yourself halfway through. All those things need to be in it to make it a good thing to read. If your assessor enjoys reading it, if anybody enjoys reading your report, that's a good report. You're going to get your message across. People are going to take it in and think about it. Which is why we're practicing doing this sort of thing. Because as you go through life, you're having to write things down that somebody else is going to pick up and read cold. And for you to be able to explain something, give some clarity about what it is that you're telling them about. Let them see a picture about what it is and give your thoughts and comments and perceptions of that with the rationale behind it. Helps them to make their own decision and maybe go along with yours. Okay. Chloe, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jill. So I'm just going to cover quickly plagiarism, AI, and submitting your work. As Jill said, that's mostly where we get stuck, but there is a guide on the Academy. So first, I'm just going to cover plagiarism. So plagiarism is when you are stealing and passing off someone else's ideas or words or work as your own. Without acknowledging the source. So that's why the Harvard referencing is so important, because it shows that you appreciate that that is someone else's work, but you are using it to form your own ideas. We do have a plagiarism policy, and that is in the resource library, as is the intermediate handbook, the assessment cover sheet, and everything like that. You do get a plagiarism score when you submit. It is common to have some percentage of plagiarism it's not unheard of to have between 0 and 20%, because even if you've referenced something properly, it can still scan where it's come from. So please don't worry if you do get a score in plagiarism. It's just to do with the big scores where, for example, someone has completely copied a whole page of somebody else's work and then used it as their own. Next slide, please, Jill. Okay, so the use of AI in your assessment assignment. So again, there is a policy for this on the HFMA Academy, and I do recommend that you go and have a read of that, because it covers everything in much more depth than what's on the screen here. But the bottom of it is that we do support the use of AI, but only for idea generation, not writing your whole assessment for you. So you still need to use your critical thinking skills, you still need to do your own research, but you can use it to aid you in your learning. And then there's just some main bullet points. I'm not going to read them all on there, but they're taken from the AI policy. What isn't on there, but it is in the AI policies, if you use any sort of AI, then you need to fill out the AI prompt record, which is also on the Academy. This just shows me when you've used it, what type you've used and how you've used it. So for example, if you are asking what is the best NHS out of the ones in the devolved nations, you would put that you've written in there, and then you would say when you access that and how you've used that in your work. Victoria, is this would you like to share your question?
Yeah, I'm dyslexic, so
Yep.
I use AI all the
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
So I'll put my ideas into AI and I'll ask them to put it into something where people can actually read it properly, rather than it just literally coming out of my mouth as gobbledygook.
Yep.
So that is what I will be doing. Is that appropriate? Is that okay? Is it not?
So exactly what I've said is that you just need to make sure you fill out that AI prompt record. It's me that reviews them and me that sees them, and we will balance that off the percentage that we get given. But obviously, I know that about you individually anyway, so it's a personal circumstance. So no, that will be fine.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so any other questions about AI or anything, please give me an email at the Academy, but please do read the policy, because it's very clear on what you can and cannot do. Next slide, please, Jo. Okay, now on to the submitting your work part. So you've all been on the Academy, because that's where all the slides and the recordings uploaded and all the ebooks are that you've been working off every week. So you should have seen by now, at the bottom of your Academy page, there is the assessment section, which is where you can view your assessment, and it is also where you submit your assessment. One thing I will point out is there is a guide that will pictures step by step of how to submit your assessment. So it's very clear, very visual, but if you have any questions, please do reach out. You do need to accept the terms and conditions before the link appears, but again, the submission guide says this. And as mentioned there, we use the plagiarism software and we use the artificial intelligence detection software. Make sure that you keep a copy of your own assessment, just because we don't always store them all after the submission date has passed. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the finer details. So as Jill's already mentioned, you should be using your candidate number. Do not use your name. It is really important that you use that candidate number, which I sent to you at the beginning of the course. If you are unsure what that is, again, please let me know. I've got it on record so I can send that out. Your submission date is Wednesday, the 8th of July at 12 noon. So that shuts off, that link will be closed at 12 noon on that Wednesday. And again, as Jill said, I would not leave it until 15 minutes before that 12 noon. I would try and be as organised as possible. One thing I will say is if you want to test it out, you can submit and then you can delete your submission or resubmit over your submission that is on there. So say you've submitted your assessment and then you realise you've made a word error. As long as it's before the Wednesday 8th of July at 12 noon, then you can resubmit on top of that as many times. But when you resubmit, the old one disappears. And then there's just a few things on there. So I'm going to do the requests, the late submissions and non-submissions all together. So depending on your personal circumstances, you can always reach out to me at the Academy and we can talk about the deadline and things like that. There are possibles for extensions for a couple of days, but this is a one-on-one basis per person. A little reminder with the non-submission of assessments that if you don't submit with this course, you are liable for a charge, because this is a free course where we put it on, and if you do not submit the assessment, then you will be invoiced. And then the assessment results. So you provisionally get a grade on the 5th of August. So this will go into the Academy where you submit your piece of work. This is provisional because we have to go through the Quality Assurance Committee for this to be set in concrete. It is very unlikely from that provisional mark that your grade will go up or down. It's just that we need to run it through that committee. But on the 2nd of September, you will get the feedback and the final grade. And then I've had a question in the chat already about resubmission. If you are unfortunately unsuccessful, you can resubmit. You need to let me know by sending a form through a week after the date. Do not worry, I will be in contact and I will put announcements out about all of this so it won't come out of the blue. You have to send a form back to me and it is a cost of 125 plus VAT. And as I mentioned in the chat, this is capped at a pass. But again, if you have any questions, please do reach out. Jill said it many, many times tonight, and we really do mean it. If we want to help you and make sure you get this assessment done to the best of your abilities. And I think that is back to you, Jill, for the last little bit.
All that's left for us to say to you really is good luck. You've been through all the course, you've done the reading, you've done the learning, you've worked through the workbooks, you've got all the information. Give it a go, write your report, write your email, reread it, have a day off, go and do something else, come back to it, add to it, think about those assessment criteria. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, ask us. We want you to pass. But if you don't know something and you don't ask us, we're not mind readers. So please do ask the questions. And if you put it on the forum, I could virtually guarantee somebody else will be worrying about exactly the same thing. So do ask and we'll respond and make sure you know everything you need to know.
Perfect.
Okay.
And with
You
that,
can stop.
I will stop recording, and please go and enjoy your evening.